School leaders have an accountability to the public for the funds that have been entrusted to them for educating the children in their community. Function codes enable superintendents and school board members to do just that. Function codes provide a consistent means of tracking expenditures in Texas public schools. If all the schools in the state are using the same function codes, which they should be, we should be able to compare the level of expenses from one district to another, see how they're spending the public's money. Function codes enhance decision making for administrators and school boards. You'll remember in our discussion about the cycle in budget development that begins with analysis of results. If you're looking at the core business of a district being the impact on student achievement, and first taking a look at the results with regard to academic performance for the previous year, then you can go back in to your budget and look at the functional expenses related to instruction, instruction-related services, school administration, etc., and see where you might want to make adjustments to improve academic performance for all students. And then, of course, finally, as I've said before, function codes enable the public to see how their money is being used. With function codes, we're able to be more transparent with the public through the various reports that local districts and TEA produce. People can see exactly how their money is being spent in each of the functional areas. The functions in the budgeting system used in Texas Public School are grouped by related activities, basically to communicate what the district is doing with the money when it's spending it. There are 9 major classes in this function code system. All of those that begin with in the 10 series are instruction and instruction-related services. In the 20 series, instructional and school leadership. 30, students support services that are related to students. 40, administrative support services. That means support services and functions within the district that support the administration. 50 is support services that are not direct to students but do affect the support of the administration of the district as a whole. Ancillary services under Series 60. The 70 class is debt service, 80 class is capital outlay, and the 90 class is intergovernmental charges. Within each of those classes, there are some specific functions. So in the 10 class, for example, instruction and instructional related services, all those that begin with a 1 in the 10's place, they're part of the 10 series. So 11, function 11 is instruction. Function 12 is instructional resources and media services. Function 13 is curriculum and staff development. Each of the other classes then breaks down into these specific function codes per this example. Let's look at each of the major areas. Instruction and instructional related services, all of those functions that are in the 10 series. Those functions point to expenditures, the spending of money for any activity that constitutes a direct interaction between staff and students to achieve student learning. So all of these functions point to money being spent directly in the engagement of students in activities related to learning. Classroom teacher salaries, classroom assistants salaries, such as paraprofessionals who are working directly in the classroom, supplies and materials that a teacher uses, field trips for students that are related to instruction, the development of curriculum, and then staff development for teachers. All of those expenses would fall under the various functions in the 10 series. 20 is instructional and school leadership, managing, supervising, and leading staff who provide specific instructional services. So this would include the salaries and benefits for different instructional supervisors at the district level. It would include, and that doesn't mean all the people at the central office, because even people within what might be a district's curriculum and instruction department, some may fall under function 20 expenses, and some may fall under another function depending on what they do specifically. Remember, it's related to what their activities are. So some instructional supervisors, campus administrators, so your principals and assistant principals, their salaries and benefits are going to come out of this 20 series. And then attendance accounting staff will also be in this series. The 30 series, or 30 class, student support services. These are non-instructional activities, but those that do provide direct support to students, right? So your guidance counselor, school psychologists, psychiatrists, and diagnosticians, any of the materials and expenses related to testing, social workers, truancy officers, the school nurse, anything related to pupil transportation, food service, and all of those extracurricular activities will be coded with functions in the 30 series. Sorry, it went backwards there. 40, administrative support. This is where you look at general administrative support for the district. In other words, administrative functions and activities that are not campus-based, such as the Board of Trustees, the superintendent, anybody that's working in the area of community relations, like a district communication director or public information officer, the finance office and other business-related staff persons in the district, and then costs related to the district share of the appraisal district. The 50 class, the series of functions that are in the 50s, those are other district support services that are not directly related to students. Building maintenance, the custodian's salaries and supplies, insurance against loss or theft or casualty, utilities, paying the electric bill and the water bill and the gas bill, security systems, security guards, campus police. If your district is responsible for employing the crossing guards, they're going to be in one of those 50 functions. And then data processing, anything related to data processing. 60, and those functions in the 60s are ancillary services. These are support services that are supplemental to the core business of the district. Now, it doesn't mean they're not important, and it doesn't mean they aren't the right thing to do. It just means that these are functions that the district is not required to do, and are not related directly to the core business of the district, but are there in some sort of support to the overall district program. For example, parent involvement programs, parent facilitators, somebody who might be a parent liaison or the coordinator of any parental involvement or education activities. Child care. Some schools offer child care for the children of students who are in attendance, or maybe you're having a district-wide function and you want to provide child care for parents who are attending the function while they're there. Those sorts of expenses would come under this 60 series. Some districts have facilities that may be jointly run with the city, or they're actually built for the purpose of providing a general use to the public rather than a specific use to students. And you might see this in some much smaller rural districts in remote areas of the state, where the only swimming pool in the town might be the school district's swimming pool, Well, the costs that are associated with that would be under the 60 series. 70 is debt service. So any expenses or activities that are related to the payment of principal and interest on bonds, or any capital lease payments, or even loans for school buses, for example, that exceed a payout of more than 1 year, you'll see those coded as functions related to debt service in the 70 series. Capital outlay, the 80 class or 80 series, relates to acquisition, construction, or major renovation of any school district facilities. So if your school district goes out and purchases a big plot of land, then that expense is going to be coded under 80, the 80 series, or major site improvements, or if your district builds a brand new school and has to do the initial purchase of furniture and equipment, that would go in this function series. And then the last one is 90. These are intergovernmental charges. These are typically a very small part of the district's expenditures. This is where the school district could be transferring resources to another governmental entity. And most commonly what we see in school districts budgets that are related to the 90 function, 90 series would be function 95, which is JJAEP. This is where a school district is transferring money to a cooperative within a county to pay for the juvenile justice alternative education program. So here are some final notes. Your school board is responsible for adopting a school district budget at the function level. So the school district's not required to get down to every single account on every campus or in every department. What the school board is responsible for is receiving a budget that's been prepared by the superintendent at the function level, saying we're going to spend this much on instruction, this much on instructional related services, this much on maintenance and operations, for example. And then once that budget is adopted, the administration cannot exceed the spending levels that are budgeted by function unless that budget is amended by the school board. That's the law. So that's where, once the board has adopted the budget at the functional level, it's the superintendent and the administration's responsibility to not overspend in any of those categories. The only way they can spend more than what's been budgeted in any of those categories is to go ask the school board for permission through a budget amendment. Now they can move money around within each of those categories, that's fine, but they just can't go over the amount that's been budgeted by the board in any category unless they get a budget amendment. And for reporting purposes, some of the functions are combined in certain state reports. We saw this in class. Function 11, which is within the instruction and instructional related series, and function 95, JJAEP, those are typically combined in state reports because they're all about providing direct instructional services to students, even though they might be in different settings. So that's everything I know about functions. And you don't have to memorize all of these. You have a resource document that's online to help you with those. We are going to do some activities later on in the semester, including our final mini quiz, which will be related to functions. But this provides you, hopefully, with a general conceptual understanding of the various function areas and why it's important for districts to have this common accounting procedure across the state, so that from district to district, community to community, school districts and school board members and superintendents are making the best decisions about how to allocate and use their resources, and that the public is able to easily see how their money is being spent for the education of the children in their community.